Okay, thank you, Scott. So without further ado, Courtney, I'll let you introduce yourself. But Courtney has spent some time guiding and you can anything else.
Hi guys. I'm going to stand on this side and break everything up. First of all, Cheyenne, welcome. That's super exciting. Yay on the Gill Trail. And I'm just going to put a plug in because we're all here for TU. We all like streamers and we clearly want to hear my really bad humor tonight. But to the point earlier, if you haven't renewed your TU membership, please do so because TU does incredible work in Colorado and the surrounding states, and it's incredibly important. So there is my plug for the night. And in full support of that, please do so. So I recognize several faces in the audience, but for those of you who I don't recognize, my name is Courtney Despos, and I like to fly fish. I also like long walks on the beach. I don't. But I also like to hunt, raft, and do all the Colorado things. I was graciously asked to come in and talk to you guys about streamers this evening because for those of you who do know me, know that I have an obsession with streamer fishing, and I don't say that lightly. Thank you, Tyler, for tying the only fly that matters in life. So appreciate that tonight. Yeah, definite round of applause for Tyler. Always appreciate him. Okay, I'm going to try to figure out, does this change slides too or no? It helps if I turn it on, guys. Believe it or not, I have a big corporate job during the day and they trust me to do this stuff all day long. All right, so who am I? I'm Courtney, and this is my LinkedIn profile for anybody who's looked me up on LinkedIn. You're welcome. So I do have a side gig in fly fishing as a guide. I used to work for the fly shop formerly known as Trout's Fly Fishing. Let's all have a moment of silence. And I also by day work in corporate healthcare. So I'm a corporate healthcare executive. I work for a local based healthcare company called Innovate. We serve elderly, and we specifically serve the underserved. So Medicaid, Medicare individuals, we're an insurance plan that takes care of them. So I run a large portion of that company. So I have a very interesting life that goes from different areas. By background, I'm actually a physical therapist. So not as exciting by background, I guess. So for tonight, we are going to go over all things streamers. For those of you who have seen my presentations previously, I see some faces that just sat through my talk a couple weeks ago. So I apologize ahead of time for listening to the same bad jokes over and over. Clearly you enjoyed them because you're back tonight. But we are going to go through all things basic and we're going to get into different types of streamer fishing. Obviously the music's on. It's a little loud for me to hear. I've shot too many guns by my head over the years, so I sometimes struggle to hear. If you have a question, feel free to raise your hand and I will do my best to hear you and answer. If not, we'll do Q&A at the end, so feel free to save them as well. And then I'll roam around at the end if you have questions you just want to ask me directly. All right, so what's the big deal? Who's streamer fished before? Let's start there. We'll start with the most important thing in this room. All right, I like this turnout. Thank you. Thank you. So if you've streamer fished before, then you already know what I'm going to talk about tonight, which is the awesomeness of it. Specifically around why streamer fishing is so addictive. And it's not just because big fly, big fish, like a lot of people assume. If you are both psychologically anything like me, you also have ADHD and you struggle to follow a bobber while net fishing regularly because you're like, oh, it's a butterfly. Oh, it's a bird. Oh, I missed a fish. So when I started streamer fishing, it worked really fantastically for my brain because it's an active type of fly fishing that you have to stay engaged with all the time. You are honed in, you are in the moment, and you are working it. You are the thing that makes that streamer work. So if you are not engaged, you're literally not fishing. So it really worked fantastically for me. Streamers imitate bait fish, leeches, crayfish, basically calorie-laden prey. So we're typically representing larger prey. So in theory, if you're throwing larger prey, you're aiming for larger fish. And in theory, typically when you're streamer fishing, your quality fish is pretty high. Not nice, but pretty high. Fly streamers, like I said, addictive. The strike is explosive. Big fly, big fish. Most active method of fly fishing for trout. Big fish do like big prey, and then high dirty water. One of the things, and I'll show this at the end of my presentation, that I also love about streamer fishing is it doesn't matter where I go in the world, and I do typically travel the world to fly fish. I am typically stripping some kind of fly, whether I'm on salt, I'm on brackish, I'm on freshwater. It doesn't matter what species I'm chasing. I can take a couple rods, just change the weight wherever I'm going, and I can strip a fly, be it permit, bonefish, redfish, trout, bass, pike, ski, you name it. I can strip a fly. So it's pretty fantastic. Okay, so all the basics. So look, make it bigger on the screen. I'm like standing next to it and I'm struggling. And I mean, I am over 40 now, but this is, here we go. We're getting there. Appreciate you. Thank you. Appreciate it. So all of this stuff, what I will tell you, if you can't see with your eyes and I'm standing next to it and I can't see it well, we're going to go over all of this throughout the presentation. So this is just a good reference sheet, but we're about to go into all of this in depth. All right, rigging and rolling. So when we're looking at our setup for streamer fishing, whether I was working a shop, I'm guiding, I'm doing education stuff, all of which I've been very active in my fly fishing career. This is kind of my go-to setup for streamer fishing. So people who are entry level, just trying to get into streamer fishing, most common question, what do I need? And first thing I ask them is, do you have a 6 or 7 weight at home? Most people in Colorado that trout fish, it's not uncommon for them to have a 6 weight lying around because of nymph fishing and other things. It's perfectly fair and appropriate to start with your 6 weight. Once you understand streamer fishing and you're addicted to it and you never want to fish anything else again, because that is what will happen, then you will start investing in other things. My go-to rod is a 7 weight. At any given time, including in the parking lot right now, if you look at my Tundra across my dash, I have 2 7 weights sitting right there all the time, half rigged, ready to go, no matter where I am. So the 9-foot 7 weight is my absolute go-to. Little plug, I fish the Orvis Helios, storm that out there, highly suggested, not required. It gives you points with the fish, by the way, if that's fish. 4 or 5 weights do make it difficult to manage a streamer. You can throw small things like lure boogers, things like that, but when you get into real streamers, the weight of them and the type of line, the size of leader you're throwing, it just doesn't turn them over well. You can't lay them out well with your cast because of the weight to just rod tension ratio. So 6 weight is your minimum. When you start to get into articulated flies, you really need at least a 7 weight. Just like with anything else, an appropriately matched reel to a well-balanced rod setup is key. What I will tell people is when you start to get into streamer fishing and you're chasing larger fish, your reel does start to matter. So a lot of times when we're nymph fishing, dry fly fishing, that reel is really functioning just as something to hold your line, right? But when you're starting to get into bigger predators, that reel matters and the drag starts to matter. Of course, when you start to go to brackish and saltwater, that reel matters because you want encased and closed components so that you don't. But as you do start to get into this, you do start to look at your reels a little bit differently. Terminal tackle, another reason I love streamer fishing. I love all of you who fish size 32 BWOs. You guys are my heroes. Does not work for me. So I'm usually fishing tippet. My go-to is a 2 or 3X. If I'm putting newer clients on it, I'm usually putting them on a 2X for me with a little bit more precision and skill. I'll go 3X or sometimes down to 4X depending on the water. So larger tippet, larger hook eyes, which is great to rig with, and larger flies. We'll talk a little bit here and a little bit about the different lines, the different types of sinks. You can also use sinking leaders. Who's aware of what a sinking leader is? It's about half the room. So for the half who doesn't know, sinking leaders exist. So your usual leader, and you basically have like a PVC coating on it, adds weight to it and helps it sink. So if you don't have a sinking line, let's say you have a floating line and you're not looking to invest in a whole setup, you can go to the fly shop, Minturn angler. Hey! And you can pick up a sinking leader to put on the end of your floating line and help with actually your presentation of your streamer to get it down a little further. Other thing that you can use, if anybody comes from a conventional background, we call them tippet rings. You call them swivels. And basically you can put on that tippet ring to help lengthen the life of the leader. You're going to want that for the end of your sinking leader as well. And then we'll get into that a little bit more just to talk about actions and action through the fly and how that can help. All right. So continuation of rigging line. We have three main types. We have floating, we have sink tip, and we have full sink. Floating, probably everybody in here is familiar with a floating. That's probably what you have on your 9'5" weight nymph rig or dry fly rig at home. Don't need to go into those. Sink tip. That is a line that is both floating and sinking. So if you're thinking of like a 90-foot line, about the first 30 feet of it is going to be with a sink weight on it, and the back end of it is going to be floating. So it's going to give you a combination or a hybrid of the best of both worlds. You're going to have the back end that's going to float. You're going to have the sinking end at the front that's going to help get your streamer down, because bait fish do not typically catch on top or fly away. So we want them down. And then you can go into full sink. And full transparency, one of my rods is set up with a sink tip and one is set up with a full sink. I will fish a full sink on the rip. So I fish the Arkansas River a lot. That's where I guide. I'm float certified, so I row quite a bit. And even from my boat, I will fish a full sink on those. You're moving so quick when you're streamer fishing. You want to get that where you want it. You want to get it down and you want to strip it back. And sometimes in certain waters and presentations, having a full sink was great for that, depending on the streamer that you're fishing. I need to update this. I said this at the last presentation. I still haven't taken the time to do this. Amplitude line. The line I use now is it's an Orbis, which is by SA, but it's called the Bank Shot. It's a fantastic line for streamer fishing. Really tough, lasts really well, has a great layout and a great sink tip to it. I will recommend it. And that is my go-to line, because I always will put lines at parent, but what line do you use? So shot is what I use. This is just more information on kind of what we just went over with the sink tip line as far as sinking versus floating. Full sink, the one thing I didn't talk about is there's different densities. So you have a single and you have a triple density option. Triple density is pretty much where most full sinks sit, unless you're really going to like still water fishing and you're trying to get out in the lake. But sink lines, when they first came out, they were just one density. So when it went down the line, if my arm's the line, just went down like this, because it was all one density, all sank at the same rate. As they increase the different densities of the line, what you get is a more natural sink. So part of that line's density is heavier, part of it is lighter, and so it sinks like this versus the line going like this and your fly being up here and getting dragged down like this. Now everything kind of goes down with the multi-density lines more naturally to the bottom. So if you look at a full sink line, I typically recommend looking at the multi-density lines. It's just a better presentation, a better sink. It's more natural. Just do it. Go Nike. Okay. Rigging. Can you see if you can get that link to play for me? I'm really putting you on the spot here. I did not test any of this beforehand, so I appreciate you. If we can get it to play, there we go. So this is the non-slip mono knot. Who's familiar with this knot? All right. I like this green. I like this green. It's my people. So if you have fished offshore and red fishing, traditional conventional fishing, saltwater, sometimes you'll see a slip knot. Your guides will do that, and basically they'll put the knot so that there is a loop here. But when you set, this knot will slide down and will actually lock in on the eye of the hook. This knot is the same theory, except it doesn't slip. So when you go to set, what happens is the knot stays here, this loop stays here. Why this knot matters? It's because of this about 1/2 inch to 1 inch space right here between where your knot is and where the eye of the hook is. I used to have a visual that I used in the fly shop where we had like a tank with, have you guys seen the tanks where you can put flies in them and you can see how they move? We would literally put 2 flies next to each other, one with a traditional clench knot and then one with the non-slip. And it was crazy the difference in the fly movement of just having this available extra room for the fly to navigate through. Okay. It may seem silly, and it's okay if you're clench knotting on your streamers, but if you want to go to level 201 and you want to take it up a notch, learn this non-slip knot. It does allow better action all the way through the fly, and it is notable when you see them next to each other in the water. Animatedknots.com, highly recommend it. Great place to learn knots, great place. They'll literally take you through step by step, animate it. They'll walk you through on the side with steps. Great place to go if you don't know this knot. It's my spiel. On to the next. Excellent. Oh, I can do it. Okay. Articulated versus non-articulated. So when we're looking at streamers, just like with any other fly, we have different types of streamers. We not only have different sizes, we have articulated, we have double hook articulated, we have hook articulated, we have trailer hooks, all kinds of things. When I fish, I prefer the Rusty Trombone, but it's articulated, it's double hook articulated. So what that means is when you're looking at the fly, it has two sections. Those two sections are usually connected in fly tying by something similar to backing, and it creates a junction or a juncture in the middle of that fly. So it gives the fly like two bodies that move. It looks more natural in the water. It looks closer to what a bait fish would truly represent when it's moving through the water, or crayfish, or whatever it's meant. And it has more motion, which often articulation tied with certain materials not only will have more motion in the fly, but will create more motion through the water when it's moving through. It can help push water and do other mobility in the water to gain that predatory response of the fish, and therefore come and strike at your streamer. Non-articulated just means it's typically a single shank, single hook fly. Nothing wrong with those. I'll fish those as well, especially if I'm looking to size down. I'll typically always go first to like an articulated fly. When you are streamer fishing, believe it or not, river is not always better. Since people come in the fly shop, when I worked at the fly shop formerly known as Trout, and they're like, I want to catch the biggest trout. And I go to the pike fly section. You know what I'm talking about. I come and they're like, I'm gonna pull the fly like this big. I'm like, yeah, that's not actually much for you. It's a fantastic fly for this. But I want to catch the biggest trout. I'm like, it's going to hear you, but let's match to what's actually in the water. So similar to nymph fishing, matching the hatch if you're dry fly fishing, it's the same thing with streamer fishing. You still need to generally be in the realm of what those fish are going to see in that water. It may not always be in color, but size, movement, type of prey that you're trying to imitate, you want to go for them. So I always tell people when you go to fill in your streamer box, because everybody should have a streamer box, besides the fact that it should only have rusty trombones in it, and you could also include a fly called the Goldie, I recommend just buying them in a couple of different sizes. So when you go into the fly shop and the streamers, you may not realize streamers come in different sizes, just like nymphs. Loads let them have a variety. What you'll see as you're out fishing is fish behavior changes. We know this, right? Whether the water's cold, the water's warm. If there was just a push of water, there was rain, it just got muddy. And sometimes the same fly, but sizing down, will make a difference in success in your day. So a lot of people don't think through that same technical capability when they get into streamer fishing, just like you would apply to your dry fly fishing or your nymph fishing. Does anybody know what a short strike is? See a couple heads nodding. So one of the things that gets people addicted to streamer fishing is the visual aspect of it. So it's not only the fact that you're actively engaged with it, but there's a visual aspect. You turn fish, it will flash at you. And you also get what are called short strikes, or people be like, I'm moving fish. I got hits, but I didn't get eats. When you get hits on the fly and you feel that tension, you go to set, but there's nothing there. It's oftentimes because the fish is short striking. So when fish are working on streamers, it's a territorial or predatory reaction that they're reacting off of. It's not like when you're nymph fishing and it might be like the 76th drift where you adjusted your weight 1/16 of an inch and it finally got to them and they're like, oh, actually now that zebra midge looks amazing. I think I'll eat it this time. Streamer fishing is like a water clearing, section clearing entity. So you are trying to get in there, you're trying to get the fish to react, you're trying to get them to strike and eat. What will happen is sometimes fish will be in a predatory nature, but they may not be eating. And so what they do is they come out and has anyone ever seen a bass? They come out and they poof at a prey, like get out of my way. Probably the same thing, but they like nip at it essentially. And so what'll happen is you'll keep getting hits and you'll be like, what am I not doing? Am I not setting? Am I too late? And a lot of times it's just that they're nipping basically at the tail. So if you size your fly down so that hook closer to the end, you'll start to increase your capacity and your success. Sometimes what you'll do too, depending on if you spent $8 or $12 on that streamer, you may feel comfortable. I'll just cut the tail off the streamer and shorten it up. So there's just tail over the hook. So they just can't visually see the hook. And that'll do the same thing. That's called short striking when they're doing that. So rigging options. My preface on this slide is always, I'm going to talk about single streamer, tandem streamer. I personally do not fish tandem streamers. I personally do not recommend tandem streamers. However, there are people that are absolute diehards. I did my row school many years ago with Colorado Angler. Love, if you guys know they're in Silverthorne, if you've never been to the shop, they're amazing. Highly recommend them. They are so awesome. They are diehard tandem streamer anglers. So when I was going through row school, because when you go through row school, you are the row bitch, and everybody, all the guides get to fish the entire time. You just move them around where they fish. Like it's that's set up for them. They were all throwing tandem streamers. The thing about tandem streamers is if you're not super skilled angler, they can actually be really detrimental to fish. You can end up wrapping the fish. You end up double hooking the fish. They can turn on them and end up with one in the gill and one in the tail. It just ends up getting really messy. It doesn't necessarily increase your likeliness of catching fish either. So if you are going to tandem streamer fish, you have a couple options as far as connection points. You can go hook bend to eye, or you can go eye to eye. This method right here would be obviously more like this is like a really bigger behind. It's a little more of something that you are letting drift through. It's kind of bouncing up and going down, bouncing up and going down. This pop fly is the one that's kind of really doing the traditional streamer action. What you will notice in both of these are non-articulated on both single shanks with hook flies. Please do not line up double articulated to double articulated. God, please. Is that your preferred tone? Is that what you're saying? So I am a single streamer angler. I am highly capable and successful, and most people are with one streamer. And if you are fishing it correctly, you don't need to. That's the gist of the story. So rigging and rolling. Another question I often get asked is, okay, so I go out and I dry fly fish. I match the hatch. I understand when I should change my dry fly. I go out and nymph fish. I match the hatch. And I understand when I should change my nymphs. I understand when I should change a streamer. So I always go through this with people, when to make a change. So just like anything else, you're going to let the conditions dictate. We understand the fish behavior to help you determine and what to do next. So these are the things that I'm looking at when I'm considering if I should make a change or not, if I'm changing out my client's streamer or somebody else who's with me. Once I realize a change is needed, I go through these 3 steps. So I will equate these to kind of what you would do on your nymph rig so you kind of understand the order of them. So start by changing your speed of your retrieve. So when you're looking at this, you can present your streamer and you can retrieve it in different ways. Biggest thing I tell in all my talks is bait fish don't swim on metronomes. They are not like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's the nutcracker. Like that's not how it works in real life. They're typically either getting flushed out of an area, they're fleeing from something, they're in constant state of fight or flight. They are not swimming that. They are swimming, they're getting pushed, they're getting flushed, they're getting stunned, they're acting dead, they're waking back up, they're doing changing things throughout if you really monitor fish or other things throughout the water. So the first thing to do is if you are doing consistent strips, try mixing up your strips. Do a couple short ones, do a long one, switch to all short ones, do quicker strips, slower strips. Those are all going to change the action within that streamer. So that's like your quick, easy, just quick change. Okay. This is like the I'm gonna just change the line of where I'm putting my nymphs. I was doing foam as home, and now I'm going to go to the inside line of this eddy kind of thing. So it's just changing your presentation. Next one is change the depth of the retrieve. And so logically, when you hear change the depth of the retrieve, what do you mean? So you can adjust where your streamer sits. It's not just based on the line, but it's how you strip. The slower your strips or the longer the pause between the strips, the more your streamer is going to sink and it's going to be working in a lower water column. So I liken this to adjusting my indicator or putting more weight on my nymph rig. I've been doing it in this water column. I don't think I'm getting deep enough or that worm's not getting to the bottom. So I'm going to bring up my indicator. I'm going to add another split. So this is the equivalent to that change in your nymph rig. Finally, if these aren't working, then I change colors. Anybody who streamer fished with me is like literally on the boat, like, I don't understand why you're changing off olive. You're literally going to go back to olive in like 45 seconds. Why are you changing it? And I'm like, I don't know, it's just not working. Let me do white for 1 minute and then I'll go back to olive. You're right. But change your colors. The gentleman at Flash Up on Life, formerly known as Trouts, were our big black streamer anglers. I was anti-black streamers, and I am an olive streamer girl. So we literally used to go out and have battles on social media days. Myself and anybody remembers Tana? R.I.P. Yes, we went out for Tana, the best Tana in the world. And my buddy Yvonne, who did all of our social media, we would go out and float, and they would fish black streamers all day. I would fish olive streamers all day, and I would just like to call it the one every. Just for everybody's knowledge. So olive streamer lives matter. I highly recommend them. A lot of people love black. My preference, if you can't tell, is olive, white, and then like yellow, and then some other things, and then like tequilas, and then like a lot of people start at black though. Streamers, like anything else, are confidence fly. I swear to you, in all my years of fly fishing, 90% of fly fishing is confidence because it changes your presentation. It changes how you're presenting, where you're presenting, how you're drifting. Same thing applies with streamer fishing. I'm confident in the Rusty. I present it the best. I retrieve it the best. I have the most success on it. All right, so different streamer examples. So basic small streamers, woolly buggers, slump busters, squirrel leeches, autumn splendors. Single articulated would be like your Sculpzillas, Dalai Lama, sparkle minnow, game changer. Double articulated, lo and behold, the Rusty Trombone. Circus peanut, sex dungeon. Colors. I always tell people, check your local fly shop. Just like any other intel that you would get from anywhere else, call the local fly shop. They know what's on the water. They know what's hitting. Their guides are often fishing streamers, by the way. So they will give you the info. So it may not be as natural to call and be like, hey, what's the streamer bite like? Because we all want to know, like, what's hatching today? And is the salmon flies, are they coming in yet? How's the Mother's Day caddis hatch going? But same thing here. They will have the intel. So call them. From them, support them. Ultimately, travel on the prowl for big food will take most any streamer. I always give the talk that we say trout are energy conservers because we're such PC individuals. Trout are lazy at the end of the day. Energy conservers, they're lazy. So if they can have this calorie-laden, caloric positive meal over this tiny size 32 BWA, they will always almost move on this more often because they have to eat once over here and eat 100 times over here. So trout will take what is in front of them, and they are energy conservers. So they will take the better meal that's presented to them. Some say dark day, dark fly, bright day, bright fly. Has anybody ever heard that? Comes from, I don't know, ocean or something. I should look up the history on that. I do semi-believe in that. But again, I think this drives back to confidence. There are days, though, if you're on the water and it's clear, it's sunny, and you throw a bright fly, you will see more movement. You know, the light, it reflects, it can get attention. It's just like you put something sparkly in front of me, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty. Let me check it out. Fish do the same. Otherwise, what I always tell people is there's no such thing as streamer season, and just fish the damn streamer. That's what I say. So here are some examples of all the different things I've caught on streamers. Up here, this is a bull trout up in BC. This is on our home Colorado River, nice brown trout. This is a pike in a lake in Wyoming that shall not be named. This is cutthroat trout, also up in Canada. We have wipers. Has anyone fished wipers before? Tyler. Yeah. If you haven't fished hybrids and wipers, I highly recommend it. They stock them in our reservoirs. They're a blast to chase. They're often great in shoulder seasons when our rivers are high or muddy, and they're awesome. Highly recommend. This is down on the Gunny outside of town. We have reds in Queens, and of course, we have the classic bass. One of my favorite things to catch on the fly and to chase. First things first, crimp that barb. I know we do that anyway for fish conservation. This is not just for fish conservation. This is also for your face conservation. We are fishing big hooks with big barbs when we are stream fishing, and a lot of times there are 2 hooks and double the barbs. I have stories of plenty of clients who have caught the side of my face, my head, and thank God that barb was crimped. Also, when you first get into streamer fishing, it is tiring. It's totally different type of presentation. It's very repetitive. It's fast moving. When you're working through it, you're casting a lot. It just takes the right amount of wind and a tired shoulder to suddenly have that streamer wrapped right around your head or your neck, and you're like, oh my God. So crimp the barbs always. Double haul. Who knows how to double haul? Who thinks the double haul is ridiculous? And we should forget about the double haul. Okay. Well, if you want to streamer fish, you can't think the double haul is ridiculous. It's quite important, actually. It's a really effective way to fish. For those of you who do not know what the double haul is, it's essentially a double timed pull on your line. So when we are casting and fly fishing, we are working a tension momentum ratio. If we go way back to our physics days in high school, around the tension of the line pulling against and feeding based on the momentum of the rod, because the energy transfers down that rod blank and it helps us shoot our line and ultimately our fly. The ability to double haul, because you are not doing Brad Pitt style shadow casting when you are fly fishing. By the way, you should never be doing Brad Pitt style shadow casting. Is actually a terrible fly fisher. But this is really important to be able to pick up off the water, gain the tension you need, and lay it right back down. When you're streamer fishing, it is a lot of pick up, lay down, pick up, lay down, pick up, lay down, strip, 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 pick up, lay down, strip, strip, strip. You are clearing water and you're moving. Doesn't matter if you're wading or you're floating. You're not sitting and repetitively trying to air that fly out, get the perfect gentle cast. You are trying to get it where you want it, to strip, to get it in front of that fish, to get that reaction, to get that hit, to get that strip set, to get that fish in, to get off, to get onto your next fish. Okay. These are really appropriate slide. That's really appropriate slide titles, guys. All right. Basic different types of retrieving when you're stripping your streamers. Basic retrieve. So I am standing here. River is going this way. I am on one bank and I am wade fishing, and the bank is over there. This basic retrieve is you are just throwing straight across perpendicular to the bank and you are retrieving back towards yourself. I always give the tip when I'm teaching people. I often see people, they want to do this with their line. Do you guys ever catch yourself doing this, stripping? Your hands going out to the side? You will lose fish doing this, because what you're going to try to do is you're going to try a strip set. You're going to go like this. You're going to end up with all kinds of things going on that aren't going to work out. So when you strip, try to be active and engaged in the process, and you are going straight forward to your hip, forward to your hip. But straight back motion will remove seconds, literally, when you go to strip set, and oftentimes will make the difference between a successful strip set and missing a fish. It also is quicker to remove the tension and set into that fish's mouth when you're stretching. So again, straight forward to your hip, straight forward to your hip. Don't get into this habit of this sideline drawing. Everybody thinks it's cool. It doesn't, because those of us who know what you're doing are like, good con. So basic retrieve, straight across, straight back. Stripping to your hip is always, no matter what retrieve you're doing, almost the game. 45 degrees down and across into swing. So again, river's going this way. I'm on one bank, other bank's over there. I'm turning my body 45 degrees down river, not upstream, but down. I'm casting out and across. I have my slack in the line. I may do a couple of strips, and then I'm allowing it to swing around. Who swung for anything? Trout, salmon, yeah. Where does the grab happen? Right at the end. Same. So when you are presenting a streamer this way, basically the bait fish is coming off the bank, it's getting flushed, stunned, it looks like it's dead, it swings around. As it comes around, you suddenly put a strip in, it looks like the bait fish just woke up, and all of a sudden that trout that's been like, what's that? Is like, oh dear God, yes. And they grab it. So same theory as when you swing any other fly. It's amazing to see the trout react to that big of a fly. They watch it the whole time. It's that first or second strip back, and they just hammer it. Dead drift, also known as the leaded soak. See this a lot on the dream stream. Who fishes the dream stream? You guys are Denverites. You fish the dream stream. Come on. All right, yeah. People are like, so you will see this a lot of times people put like a woolly booger under an indicator. That's totally fair and totally appropriate. It represents a leech that gets flushed out of the reservoir above into the tailwaters. They're around and it's just kind of drifting down. And that is a dead drift. Also earlier when I was talking about the tandem streamer setup, I kind of talked about that second one and the way it hangs down. It's not typically going through a real streamer motion at that point, but it's kind of bouncing, coming up, dead drifting, bouncing, coming up. It can kind of dead drift as well. Give and take. Has anybody ever tried a give and take approach? That's streamer fishing. So this is an interesting one. You don't see a lot of people fish it, so I'm always interested when people are like, yeah, I totally tried it. For those of you, I saw some friends not even here, who had success on it. You see, yes. Think you and any of you had success on it? Still to be decided, TBD. It's a Hail Mary. It's fair. I like that. So this is actually a downstream tactic. So if I'm standing in the river's floating this way, the river's floating that way. Typically there's like a boulder or some kind of structure down there that I'm assuming that a trout is sitting on this side of, and I'm upstream. And because I'm waiting in access, all I can do is go downstream. I'm not trying to line the fish. That's the key. So if you line the fish in that, you kind of spook the trout. I know the fish are further down, or I have an idea of where that fish sits. I am actually casting downstream, trying to get that streamer to land in front of the trout. And then what I'm doing is I'm stripping, is I'm giving and taking. The key here, though, is people picture give and take, and they picture this consistent, like I'm bringing it 6 inches and letting it go 6 inches. I'm bringing it so it never actually moves. As you give and take, you're still working that streamer up towards you. So you're taking more than you're giving. But again, it's like a bait fish or something, kind of swimming, resting, swimming, resting, stunning, resting. And it just gets their attention. It's a little more gentle because you're just in an odd place, and you can absolutely have success on it. Plenty of times I've done it. Remember, fish will follow your streamer, so don't lift a cast too early. Streamer fishing is really active. It's really exciting. There's a lot of action, especially if you're turning fish throughout. You know, with streamer anglers, people will be like, how many did you catch? And I'm like, I turned 100 today. I got 10 in the boat. They were all nice. But I turned 100. I'm not just in it to get them to the boat. Like literally seeing that fish turn or flash is equally as addictive and exciting to me. If you have fished with me, I am always the loudest person on the river. I am screaming most of the time and celebrating. And the biggest thing I often see is that people get so excited. They get to the bank. All they get is they get hyper focused on banks. They do a couple strips off bank, pick up one bank again. A lot of times what's happening is you are hitting the bank, which is totally appropriate. That's where the bait fish or whatever you're representing is living. We all know the banks typically come out, there's a drop in a river, right? And where do trout often sit? Just past that drop, right? Again, energy conservers. They sit over that drop where it's easy for them to sit and stay in place, but they're getting food pushed to them consistently, right? So I'm going to strip off that bank, let it sink a little bit, then start my strips. You'd be amazed at how many fish I have eat within a foot to 15 inches of my boat, or myself if I'm waiting. They follow it and then they strike. So don't pick up too early. Don't be afraid to strip all the way in and then use your cast again in that double haul to load and use those physics to get the line back out again. All the way in. I mean, I'm not pulling the leader into the tip. Let me put it that way. Yeah. Might get literally within a foot of my boat or 15, 18 inches of myself before I put. And to that point, because someone's going to say, wait, but your leader is going to be longer than that. I'm fishing when I'm streamer fishing. I'm fishing short leaders. You are not fishing 7.5 foot leaders. A lot of times you are fishing a couple feet the leader. Just FYI. Another big pro tip. So mark this down. Hashtag pro tip. Big thing. So a couple things I dial in when I first take people out streamer angling. First thing I do is obviously get them just comfortable casting that streamer. It's a lot different. It's heavy. Then I get them focused on their strip, straight to the hip, straight to the hip. Next thing I get them focused on is where is their tip when they're fishing. Much like I was talking about, just that change from stripping kind of like this to coming straight back can create, it can be and will be the difference between successfully setting on a trout or not. This is another huge game changer that seems so minimal to people until I explain it. Then they're like, that makes total sense. This might be a little bit hard to see in the back, so I'm going to verbally explain what's going on here. So we have a tip out and a tip in. So when you're looking at the rod, if you can see the rod in the picture here, there's an orange line. You can see that orange line go into the water. You may not be able to see from the back. The tip of the rod and the orange line is actually like an inch or so above the water. And there's a couple inches of line here that is basically midair from the external part of the tip before it gets subsurface in the water. In our tip in example, I can't see anything because the tip is in a couple inches and the line is here, but the line is subsurface. This may seem like, wouldn't have even thought of that. This little bit of resistance change right here. So we have water resistance here, we have resistance that naturally happens through the eyes of the rod, and then we have nothing in between. That little bit of what becomes slack, again, can be the difference between you successfully catching a fish and not. When we have our tip in the water and we're not putting 6 inches of the rod, your warranty, we're just putting a couple inches in. Then if you think about it logically in your head, you have the same tension, water tension all the way up until that line hits those guides on the rod. You have a consistent tension and pressure. There's no gap in between. There's no change in the resistance in between. And again, when you're now combining that with this very efficient strip set, you're getting a full strip and you're getting a full strip set when the fish eats. You would be again amazed at how this couple inches out of the water creates slack, and it changes the tension between what it's experiencing in the water and what it's experiencing in the guides, and the extra second or half second it takes for that part to tension through the difference between you successfully catching that fish or not. So, ladies and gentlemen, tip always end. All right, strip set, stripping styles, put personality into your fly. I started at the beginning of this presentation explaining that I love streamer fishing because not only is it active, but I'm the reason I'm successful or not. I can't blame it on the fish not eating that day. I sometimes still will, depending on the day. Like, it could be me, guys. But generally, I am whether the success happens that day or not. What you strip, how you strip, that confidence you have, determines the personality of that fly at 100%. So, consistent versus intermittent strips we talked about a few minutes ago. Fish don't swim on metronomes. Please don't be a metronome. Long versus short, smooth versus jerky, positioning of hand and angle of strip. So that's again straight to the hip versus coming to the side. And then two-handed strip. Who has saltwater fished or seen somebody who casts, puts the rod under their arm and then does a double hand strip? Have you seen that? It's big in the saltwater. That's what keeps your saltwater guys. Well, it doesn't keep them. It makes them cuss at you less because they still cuss you, but they cuss at you less because you can't trout set when the rod's under your arm. Even if your body's like, oh my God, you still really can't trout set. So two-handed stripping, you will see that. I use it even. I'll stand on the platform in my raft and I'll two-hand strip sometimes on days. It's a totally legit technique. Bump. Fish will often charge the streamer once, aggravated or feeling threatened. This is to disorient the bait prior to taking the bait. So I'll see people, they'll feel the bump and then they're like, oh wait, nothing's there. And they'll pick their tip up to cast again. When you feel that bump, you stick to your method because that fish is most likely coming back. They're bumping it to disorient it, to come back around and grab it. So when you feel that bump, keep stripping because that fish is coming back almost 100% of the time. Strip set. It's what we've been talking about. This is the technique we use. We use a trout set when we're dry fly fishing, when we're nymph fishing, when we're streamer fishing, we use a strip set. So we're stripping, and then we feel that tension. It's a hard pull back straight to that hip. And that just, when they go to eat the hook, it sets the hook into the fish's button or into their mouth, and you can successfully now fight your fish. Conditions: wading versus floating versus still water. You can fish streamers in all of these. Wading, you're obviously standing in a fixed location. Typically, the fly is coming directly back at you. Floating, the biggest thing I say, besides if you can't row, you can't go. Unless you're paying me, then I will row you all day long. Otherwise, if you can't row, you won't go. But the oarsman has an effect. If you don't have somebody who understands how to row for fly fishing, this is massively impactful, especially in streamer fishing. You're moving and clearing water so quickly. It's even more important for the oarsman to understand how to read how you're fishing and how the water is moving to keep up with what you're doing. There's times I'll be standing on my boat, I'll have somebody rowing, and I'll just be standing there like, why aren't you fishing? And I'm like, kind of like, I'm waiting for you to move to the new spot. So if you could row, I'll do it very kindly and sweetly, but oarsman really has an effect when you're streamers fishing. So having somebody who understands the mechanics and can read what's going, or you guys have a good, communication line, it's really important. Still water, you can fish it from the boat or the shore. Shore fishing requires improved casting because you're obviously trying to get out distance. Who's been to Pyramid Lake? Off ladders, you're trying to get out past those shelves, you're stripping back. And then obviously still water from the boat is still water from the boat. Almost done, guys. Cold weather. There's no such thing as streamer season. So you'll often hear people be like, it's fall, the brown trout are out, it's streamer season. It's like, because the bait fish have a season? I'm confused. They don't. They're in the water all year round. Fish will eat streamers all year round. For times that they may be more active, just like anything else, I would argue they're more active on anything in those times, including your food. So I say there's no such thing as streamer season, and just fish the streamer. All right. Yeah, that's it, guys. Thank you. Happy to take any questions. My email no longer is so that needs to be taken off. Please don't even try. It will not be successful. So just throwing that out there. The only other thing I forgot to say at the beginning, which was like my legal disclaimer that I'm required by myself to say, if you look up the Rusty Trombone, because you've heard it 25 times tonight, you are required to Google the word Rusty Trombone streamer. Do not leave the word streamer off. I am not liable for anything that comes up on the internet. If you Google that without that word, you have been warned. That is my legal disclaimer. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Courtney. Do we have any questions for Courtney? We're working on it. Have any questions for Courtney?
Yeah. You talked about your leader life.
Yeah.
You said it was really short.
Yes.
Was that because you did it that way, or do you actually fly in?
I don't have the music. So the question was, I talked about how my leaders are short. Do I make them that way or do I buy them that way? There are actually technically streamer leaders. If you want the money saving pro tip, I take my old leaders from nymph fishing and dry fly fishing, and as I cut them up and they get too short, and I'm like, oh, this is crap. It's no longer crap. Now it's pretty much 10 out of 10 dead on for streamer fishing. Yeah. Yeah. Other questions? Yes. Two. Okay. Yeah.
Hang on, Harlan.
God.
Yeah.
That's the most I can do. There we go. So when I fish streamers, my arm gets tired quickly. Do you have any hints on that one? Okay. The other question was I was in the middle of a big blue wing olive hatch, and olive pattern still worked, and I was
I mean, everybody say hi to Zach, my significant other here. He is amazing, and we do a huge Gunny Gorge trip every year. He's a former whitewater guide, so we do Gunny Gorge. And what's big in the Gunny Gorge? What's the big hatch? Salmon flies. So we go and we never fish them. And people are always like, what are you doing? It's the salmon fly hatch. And I'm like, they are so tired of eating salmon flies. And people will be like, I can't get them to eat anything. And I'm like, really? Because we just had a 25 fish day. So I don't know what's going on. Fish gorge on things. And when there's a hatch, they like stuff that's different. I mean, that is their nature. So there's a lot of times that we'll go out and something will be hatching. We'll be on the gunning, we'll be on the arc, we'll be wherever. It'll be a caddis hatch. And people will be like, I'm not successful. And we just had a lights out day because I was fishing streamers, and fish react to different things when they see them. So keep with that, even if it's a BWO hatch. The biggest thing I usually also say in my presentation is you just have to commit to it, because if you will always, we're humans, we'll always go back to our comfort thing. And that's fine. So literally leave your nymph rod at home. Force yourself to stick with your streamer rod, even when you're going through days where you're like, I'm not catching anything, I'm getting bumps, I'm missing fish, and you're like, I just want my nymph rod or whatever. Leave them at home so you're forced to fish it. Dial it in so you have a blast once you figure out. And then if you still want to go out to your nymph rod, peace be with you. But like, you'll love it. But at least now you have more tools in your tool belt. Any other questions? Okay, I'm gonna let you guys wrap up. I'll be here, so if you want to come up and ask me questions afterward, feel free.
Thank you, Courtney. So my